Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm back again to expose the reality, to give good information, dependable information to the Europeans and Americans as far as the so-called Brigade Hamadu, a terrorist group in view of the Eritreans, a group that harasses the Eritreans everywhere, goes out there to disturb the festivities. For a reason obvious to us, but not to the world, actually. This group is a terrorist group, very well affiliated to the TPLF, Tigray People's Liberation Front, responsible for destroying close to 1 million of its citizens in useless wars the last 3 years. So they're actually trying to revenge, but they're pretending Eritreans. They never had the Eritrean flag. They don't like it. They're, of course, Tigrayans. Probably some of them grew up in Eritrea, and a lot of them actually came to the United States and Europe as refugees, holding fake Eritrean ID cards. We all know this, but they were pretending as fighters for democracy against the dictatorship in Eritrea. And ladies and gentlemen, here I am to translate to the best of my capacity. As I hear it, the way it is, and welcome. Appreciate that. Welcome.
كارا حيسكا كمان أبصرجيا خد كيدا يتخنيها كارا حجزيها كمان بيدكا حيسكا ياخد كيدا يتخنيها كلاشنكوف مالت إذا عباي برد أبي إرترا بمزح برد له كومو أوشتي كلاشنكوف زحازلو بمبال قال محتتا كايدا نيرا.
Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Mirjam Van Reisen, a professor in Holland, Tilburg University, has accused the Eritrean festivities of carrying guns, machine guns, machetes, knives, and all this. And this is new to us. We don't know about this kind of activities ever since the Eritreans started having festivities back in the 60s during the armed struggle. Okay, so I'm actually terrorized myself to hear all this kind of thing. It's of course political propaganda, because the Eritreans are peaceful. They've always been peaceful. They're not new to European societies. They're not new to American societies. Europeans and Americans know them very well as peaceful people. For the first time, though, Miss Mirjam is actually coming here with the propaganda that these festivities carry arms, train kids to fight, and all this kind of thing. All they do is their cultural activities like any other societies, and the government doesn't even involve in here. We do it by our own willingness. Therefore, I'm going to go and see what I can do in here and enjoy the show. Thank you.
هذا محتت مسكايدت أبز راديو مالتي أب راديو مسكايدت توم بوليس كأخيدهم نت فستيفال تطوكم دبل جيرمو مالتي.
Ladies and gentlemen, after she made an interview and told the police, I think it was the police somewhere in Europe, we're going to see the pictures right now, we're going to see the video, the police had to go there in search of weapons. And they stopped the festivities for no reason. They didn't find anything. But why does the police have to spend all this kind of resources, all this energy and money and time to do this kind of useless investigation because of the propaganda that Miss Mirjam gave them? And then they just followed it without asking for substance, for evidence. Problem was created. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't want this kind of confusion. Europeans have to know, Americans have to know exactly, so that this kind of propaganda cannot repeat itself next time. We got to stop it. We have to depend on the truth. We have to depend on real stories instead of fabrications. Let's go.
Now we go to document.
Zij de vluchtelingen kunnen controleren. En waardoor liep dat uit de hand? Voor zover ik begrepen heb, is er door de vluchtelingen geen geweld gebruikt. Maar wat al veel langer bekend is, zeker meer dan 10 jaar, is dat tijdens die feesten paramilitaire organisaties worden ingezet door het Eritrese regime, die ook in Eritrea zijn getraind en die dan met kalasjnikovs en ook met messen, tussen aanhalingstekentjes, de veiligheid in tijdens die feesten controleert.
هو بتعمل ونزا ጋዜጠኛ ገሪሞ እንታይ አትብላ ዘላ እቲ ሓሶት እውን ባህላዊ ጾቶም እዩ ካብ በዓል ደብረጽዮን
Well, I'm very sorry to hear that the Eritreans actually had Kalashnikovs. And of course, ultimately, police was involved. Miss Mirjam, me, as a member of the educated class in the United States of America, and also in Eritrea as such, I got a few questions I have to challenge you, academically and intellectually, Mom.
ሞት
Nou, dat is een goede vraag. Ik zou zelf ook denken dat...
ኦኬ ጽቡቕ ሕቶ እዩ ድሕሪ ዝግርጭት ሕጂ ግዚኡ እዩ መርመራ ንኽካየድ ከምዚ ዓይነት ጉዳይ ድማ ቅድሚ ሕጂ ኣብ ስዊዘርላንድ ኣጋጢሙ እዩ ኣብ ቪድዮ እቶም ወተሃደራት ናይ ወተሃደራዊ ልብሲ ተኸዲኖም ከምኡውን ሽጉጥ ከምኡውን ካላሽንኮቭ ሒዞም ተረኺቦም እያ ትብል ኣላ
Well, Miss Mirjam, are you really serious about this thing? Weapons actually in Eritrean festivities? It happened in Switzerland, they say. But do you have substance? Can you prove it? Can you substantiate it? And then the police went there and stopped them, actually. Stopped, but they didn't find anything. My question is, why are you doing this, Miss Mirjam?
ኣብ ስዊዘርላንድ ካላሽንኮቭ ሒዞም ተረኺቦም ኣይፈልጡን እዮም
Kalashnikovs in Switzerland, in Eritrean festivities, Miss Mirjam. This is a serious false accusation, unless you prove it.
ቢልያ ግን እንታይ እዩ እታ ፌስቲቫል ሸዓ ክትዕፆ ስለ ዘለዋ ሸዓ ክትዕፆ ክትክዳላ ኩሉ ግዜ መኻልፍ እዩ
Well, all this is, of course, to have the festivities closed, and many times, quite few times, they have succeeded doing that. They have succeeded doing that.
ስለ ዘለዋ ሸዓ ክትዕፆ ክትክዳላ ኩሉ
Nu tijd is om daar onderzoek naar te doen. Vorig jaar in een soortgelijk festival in Zwitserland werden duidelijk video-opnamen en foto's gemaakt. Waarbij die paramilitairen in een militair uniform en met wapens duidelijk te zien zijn. Ja, wat eventjes de
ሕጂ
Doctor, you've seen Kalashnikovs in Switzerland? In Eritrean festivities for real? So, I cannot imagine anybody in your kind of status, Mom, to tell this and to mislead the police into going to those festivities and stop very peaceful Eritrean gatherings. This is happening ever since this group came to existence. Eritreans have never had any problem like that in the past. Miss Mirjam, are you serious? You saw Kalashnikovs when you told the police to go investigate and close the festivities. Are you sure about it, Miss Mirjam?
En dat het juist ook bedoeld was om onrust te veroorzaken, zodat misschien, zoals hier wordt geopperd, ook die mensen terug naar Eritrea moeten. Denk je dat zoiets aan de hand is, dat er meer speelt dan gewoon twee groepen die met elkaar in conflict raken?
Nou, mag ik dit probleem...
ኦኬ ኣብ ሓንቲ ጋዜጣ ዘንበብኮ ጽሑፍ ነይሩ ንሱ ድማ ሰብ ኣብዚ ግርጭት ኢድ ናይ መንግስቲ ኤርትራ ከም ዝነበሮ እቲ ዕላማ ድማ ከምዚ ዘጋጠመ ግርጭት ንምፍጣር ከም ዝነበረ በዚ መገዲ ድማ ኩላቶም እቶም ገበነኛታት ተፈሪዶም ንኤርትራ ከም ዝምለሱ ንምግባር
Well, I guess what is going on here, to the best of my capacity, is that, well, part of the show is that Miss Mirjam is trained to play games such that she's accusing the Eritrean government of orchestrating some violence, okay, by sneaking in weapons and all these kind of things and aggravating the other group into coming and attacking them. How can the Eritrean government do this? doesn't have time. It doesn't have time. The Eritreans are organizing those festivities on their own. And no weapons are involved here except dancing and just discussing about home, political discussions, cultural activities, music, and that's all we know. The Eritrean government cannot aggravate the other group to come, the hoodlums to come and attack them, so that it would make it a basis for their deportation to Eritrea, she's saying. It does not make sense. Nobody cares whether the Dutch government deports them or not. Of course, I believe they have to be deported. Full investigation has to be made, clearly separating who is the Eritrean and who is the Tigrayan, and finally, an action got to be taken. We know that the Eritreans have no problem in this situation, in this kind of condition. Therefore, we encourage the Dutch government to investigate in detail and serve justice in this situation. But we know that the Eritrean government doesn't have the behavior, the pattern, or the interest to do this kind of things. Okay? All we know is those festivities probably sympathize with the government, but so what? Every nation, every people has a right to sympathize with the government, to support its government. There ain't no violence here at all. So there is no need for the others to come and do violence here in the name of Eritrea. First of all, they don't know this flag at all. They don't know. They don't like the Eritrean flag. They don't like the Eritrean government. They don't like the Eritrean nationhood. They're coming with Tigrayan affiliated blue flag. We don't know where it comes from. We don't have blue flag in Eritrea. And Miss Mirjam, you know exactly what's going on, but I don't understand why you do this, to be honest.
እዚ ከምኡ ድዩ ይመስለካ ብድሕሪኡ ሓደ ነገር ይህሉ ዶ ትብል ወይስ ኢሎም እዮም ክልተ ወገናት
What could be behind the festivities that they do it by getting permission from the authorities, local authorities?
ዝበኣሱ ዘሎ ብምባል ይሓቲትዎ ኣብቲ ዝሃቦ
die achter deze groep staat.
Okay.
ኣብቲ ንዓቢ ናይ ሆላንድ ዝተሳተፉ ካብ ቤልጅየም ድዮም ካብ ጀርመን ከምኡን ካብ ሆላንድ ዝተሳተፉ ትግርጭት ስእሎም ዝኾነ ነገር ሓበሬታ
Well, Miss Mirjam, I have personal questions to this all. First one is, why are you personalizing the Eritrean issue to this point of grudge? Why is it so personal to you, Mom? Question is, are you against all dictators in the world, particularly in Africa? Or only against President Isaias Afwerki within this classification? Professor Mirjam, my question is, are you against dictatorship around the world? Generically speaking, or you're just attacking the Eritrean government within this classification in specific isolation? You, Professor Mirjam, have you really ever seen or heard of a weapon in Eritrean festivities since the liberation struggle back in the 60s all the way to this point in Chronicle? Have you ever seen a knife, a stick, tear gas, a pistol, or any other weapon? Have you ever seen it? Honestly, did you see that? Did you see violence ever in Eritrean festivities? If you do, can you please substantiate it concretely? Would you give us one concrete example or evidence on this grounds? You know for sure Brigade Nahamadu is a terrorist TPLF affiliated group full of uneducated parasites of the European economy and angry individuals frustrated with PLF's defeat after causing about 1 million Tigrayan victims the last 3 years. You know this for sure, Ms. Mirjam, because you have worked with TPLF for a long time. Are you directly affiliated with TPLF? And do you support its cause of destruction and to what end? Why are you empowering these kids behind false propaganda into violence, into throwing stones, hurting old people, young kids, disturbing the community as such? Why are you doing this? What is the goal for this? I'm just curious to know, Professor. I expect Dutch political matters to be left alone for the Dutch. I expect Germany political matters to be left exclusively to Germans. So do I expect strictly English political matters to be left alone, of course, to the people of England. We can only assist from the periphery as international politicians or international activists. Professor Mirjam, why don't you leave the Eritrean politics to the Eritreans? Why don't you leave it to us? Why have you been dedicating so much energy, resources in terms of time and money to this destructive cause? What is the fundamental motivation behind your activism for democracy in Eritrea and exclusively in Eritrea? And why was the TPLF with the Tigrayans? Why not with the Eritreans? Like me, activists like me who has a problem. I have a problem with the government some kind of way. I want to democratize Eritrea, definitely. Okay? So I speak my words, I speak my ideas, I speak my thoughts. Why can't you work with us? If you really want to change Eritrea to democracy, why are you attacking the Eritrean society vis-a-vis dictatorship, like selective punishment, basically? Why are you giving us selective attachment or selective attention? Don't you think many Africans are suffering from dictatorship? Don't you think they need your help, your assistance as much? But instead, why are you doing this with the Tigrayans instead of with the Eritreans? Wouldn't it be better to work for conducive political environment between the Europeans and the Eritreans to get them closer, as demonstrated by the Italian president, Italian Prime Minister, President, in the last Italia-Africa summit? Beautiful summit. Don't you think we have to do that to solve the refugee problems around Europe? Don't you think it would be good for the economy of Europe and America if we solved the refugee problems together, and instead of helping these guys throw stones in very civilized European streets against people that party upon permission from the government, from the authorities? I suspect a foul play, Doctor. I do. Because I just cannot understand it. How about working for regional peace in the whole of Africa instead of exasperating violence? After the extraordinary human destruction we witnessed, after the shocking diplomatic propaganda portrayed by the enemy of the Tigray people, the TPLF, in the last 3 years of misadventure, war of attribution, don't you think those peoples deserve to get some kind of peace, to heal up their wounds, and to start their survival? Some kind of way, out of nothing, out of the ashes? Don't you think we have to sympathize with those people instead of aggravating the problem by organized criminals teaching the kids to throw stones and go to jail where they sit down protecting their families and then making money out of it? Doctor, you know all this. Why are you in this kind of mess? I don't understand it. How about working together to stop the adventurous wars and the comic starvation in Tigray and the rest of Africa, basically, especially in the whole, instead of encouraging this terrorist group to exasperate The already explosive situation out of control. What are you trying to achieve, Mama? What is your objective, Mom? What do you get from this vicious propaganda? What do you get from seeing young kids killing each other? Why against the people of Eritrea? We have already too much pressure. We already have too many refugees that want to go home. Why pressurize us with more violence? Don't you think the Eritreans have suffered enough violence ever since their struggle in 1961, Mom? Is this really what you have to do in the name of democracy? Have you seen any nations that achieve democracy with rocks and stones? Why don't you advise those kids to go to school instead of just, what can I say, instead of accentuating terrorism and hoodlumism in Europe and in America? I really appreciate it. With all the respect, I gotta stop right here, but I appreciate if you can respond. If not, I do appreciate if you quit. But definitely this is not for democracy. We know that, Mom. May God help you to make peace with your thoughts, Mom. May God help you to universalize your ideas and show some kind of sympathy or empathy towards the Eritrean people, the Tigrayans. May God help you to agitate those young kids killing each other, going to jails, to go to school, to take advantage of Europeans, the European and the American societies, and develop themselves, help themselves and their families instead of killing each other, instead of victimizing them in potential jails. They must go as violent criminals. I really thank you very much. I pray for you, Mom. Thank you very much. I will come back depending on what's going on. But we have to stop this terrorism, Miss Mirjam, and I wish you can actually align with us and help us out. Help the European society out. Help the Americans out. Because their leaders are making a lot of money. Many people are making money out of this. And the kids are almost biting to dust. Thank you very much, and I appreciate it.